Many patients with lower back pain come to the surgery convinced that the problem lies in their back. They point to the lumbar area, talk about stiffness, muscle knots or blockages, and expect the treatment to focus directly there. However, in a large number of cases, the source of the pain is not just in the spine, but in the hip. When the gluteus maximus and gluteus medius don't generate enough strength, or more importantly, don't coordinate properly, the lower back begins to take on roles that are not its own, such as stabilizing and overextending. A very common pattern then emerges: less gluteal activation, more lumbar activation, progressive overload, and recurring pain. If you do not detect this altered synergy, you could spend weeks treating the consequence without addressing the real cause. Scientific evidence shows a clear relationship between lower back pain and alterations in the gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and spinal erectors. But the problem is not always pure weakness. Many times we're talking about neuromuscular discoordination, muscles that activate late, too early, or during the wrong phase of movement. That's why your job is not just to strengthen, but to understand which muscle is overworking and which one is underworking. To help you, you can apply a quick gluteal lumbar assessment protocol in just 15 minutes. First, the glute bridge. Here you're looking to detect whether the patient feels more load in the lower back than activation in the glutes. If exaggerated lumbar extension or paravertebral stiffness appears when the spinal erectors dominate over the gluteus maximus and medius, the extension's being generated from the spine and not from the hip. Reducing the range, adding tactile feedback, and using EMG biofeedback helps to retrain the pattern. Second test, hip abduction. The aim is to assess the gluteus medius. Observe trunk inclination, compensatory rotations, or early lumbar activation. If the gluteus medius does not stabilize the pelvis, the trunk compensates and the lumbar region takes on the load. Third test, single leg squat. Probably the most revealing, as it shows the real pattern under load. Look for pelvic drop, excessive lumbar flexion, or paravertebral dominance. When the glutes do not control stability, the patient stabilizes from the spine instead of from the hip. Fourth test, the Cat-Camel movement, useful for assessing lumbo-pelvic control. Here you may find lumbar deficits when erector activation is very low, or lack of coordination when the glutes and paravertebrals activate without a clear rhythm. In this case, the problem is not strength, but segmental control, and the intervention should focus on specific lumbar activation, control of the lumbo-pelvic rhythm, and conscious progression. When you incorporate electromyography, everything changes. EMG allows you to see which muscle is compensating, when it activates, in which phase of the movement, and how it evolves after retraining. You move from working on intuition to working with objective validation, from thinking the patient is improving to actually being able to measure that their gluteal activation is genuinely increasing. And this saves weeks of treatment, because if you don't analyze the gluteal lumbar synergy, you might be strengthening the back when in reality you need to retrain the hip or progress in the load without having corrected coordination first. The problem isn't that the patient isn't working, but that they might be working with the wrong pattern. When you detect the altered pattern from the very first session, you adjust sooner, correct sooner, and progress sooner, reducing relapses, recurring pain, and recovery times. Stopping blind treatment doesn't mean applying more techniques, it means understanding which muscle is failing within the synergy and correcting it precisely. So I'll leave you with a question. How many patients with lower back pain are you treating without having really analyzed their gluteolumbar pattern? If you want to assess, correct, and progress with objective data from day one, you can integrate electromyography into your practice and ensure that each exercise is working exactly where it should. Get more information via the link in the description.